Hello, everyone. So what we're going to be doing today is we're going to start the process for creating a domain controller. Now, what you see on the screen presently is just the installation of server, but it hasn't been configured other than essentially installing the operating system. So there's a few things we're going to have to accomplish before we make this thing a domain controller. We're going to have to give it a name because by default, servers and clients get really, really crazy names from the operating system installation. So we're going to do a couple of things here. We're going to give this server a name. And then after we give this server a name, we're going to give it an IP address. And then, of course, after we give it an IP address, we're going to promote it to a domain controller and look at all the controls that we can use on the domain controller. Again, the three things we're going to do. We're going to give this machine a host name. Then we're going to give this machine an IP address. Then we're going to go through the process of turning this machine into a domain controller. And then we're going to look at all of the domain controller control features that will become available. So let's look at this machine's name a couple of different ways. One way that you can look at the machine's name is by clicking on local server. And here you go, you see that weird name that it automatically gave itself. In addition to that, you can look at the host name through a command line interface, what we call a CLI. Let me go ahead and show you that feature. I'm going to go to the search window. And then I'm going to type in CMD, which brings up a command prompt. Now we actually call this CLI, command line interface. I'm going to make this font larger so people such as myself can actually see it easier. Well, let's see, we'll go ahead and dig that deeper. That might be there. And then from here, I could just type in the command host name. And we see it has that really, really long, crazy name. So what we're going to do is we're going to give this a name that it's easier for us to remember, because as you go along working on servers, you have to create names that make sense. So let's go ahead and start the process. Again, just to give this server the name we want, we'll go ahead and click on the computer name, and then we'll click on change. And now we can actually put in the name we want. I'm going to just put in SV1. I'll put in a lower v for server one. Now, once we do this, we're going to have to restart the server. So here we go, punch OK. It'll be OK again. Then it'll be close. Now you notice it's giving us this warning to restart the server now. We can actually restart it later because I want to give this machine a dedicated IP address and some other settings and restart the server and have it all have its new unique identities all at the same time. So I'll go ahead and I'll reset restart later. When you install the operating system, it does not necessarily have a static IP address. Well, anything that's really a server in the network, its IP address should not be changing. So we should go ahead and set a static IP address. Let's look at the IP settings, both using the GUI and the CLI. So just using the GUI, I can go way down here where you have the icon for the network and sharing. I'll right click on that puppy, open Network and Sharing Center, change adapter settings, and it brings up the network adapters GUI that's presently installed in your machine. Let's go ahead and look at its properties. To do that, we right click, and then we go to properties. Then after that, we click on the word, not the check mark. You click on the word TCP/IP version 4 and properties. When you notice that there are no numbers in this area, that means that it has a dynamic IP address. That means the IP address could literally change every time it turns on based on what DHCP server is on the network. Let's see what it looks like using the command line. To do that, again, you go to the run option. Type in CMD and enter. I'm going to type a command just to get some more space out here, which is clear screen. That's CLS and enter. And then I want to get all the way down to the root of the directory. To do that, I'm going to type in CD period, period. Or some people just say CD dot dot. That just moved me back one. If I want to move all the way back down to the C drive, I can type in CD backslash and hit enter. Now you see I'm at the root of C. Let's go ahead and clear my screen. Then I type in ipconfig. This shows me the basic network settings of this server. So you see it is getting some IP address information from a DHCP server. Well, we're going to go ahead and make this IP address be a specific IP address upon the machine's restart, and it will never change. So I'll minimize this screen. And I'll put in the IP addresses that I wanted to use. I'm going to have it use a specific IP address that I put in. I'm going to put in, let's see, 172.16. Let's see this. Oh, my num block wasn't on. 172.16. Okay, let's try that again. 172.16. We'll make this the first network, so we'll make that 10. Got 10. I'm going to put in a class C subnet mask. Oh, now my numlock's working. Now, the only reason I did that is because I'm going to use the magic number 1 to be my default gateway. For this scenario, we don't need a DNS server setting, but we're probably going to put one in later. So I'm going to put it in now. I'm going to make the DNS server the same exact IP address as this server. So not only is this server going to be a domain controller, but it is also going to be a DNS server. Now that won't occur until after we actually create this as a domain controller. But when we're putting in the unique identities, it's to set up the foundation for everything else that we're going to do. So I'm going to hit OK a few times, and then I'm going to check in the command line to see if it actually worked. So I'm going to hit OK here, and then hit close a couple of times to get us back to just the server manager. I'm going to open up the command line again. And now I'm going to type in this command again to see if the new settings have replaced these settings. So first, just to get some real estate, I'm going to type in CLS to clear my screen. And then I'm going to type in ipconfig again. Now notice I have the IP information that I need. So now I'm going to go ahead and shut down the server. Now there's a whole bunch of different ways you can shut down or restart a server. If you're using command line, we can type in this command. What that will do is that will tell the server that it needs to turn off and restart. Or you can go via the GUI. Hit the start button and then the power button and restart. It's going to ask you if this is something that you're planning on doing, or else if you didn't put something in here in the log, it would say that it just like kind of died. Now I'm going to pause my screen share for just a moment while I do some work. And let's go ahead and log in. Now we'll go ahead and check all of those different settings. So after Server Manager loads, I'm going to check to see the host name of the server. And then I'm also going to check to see the IP address of the server. I'm going to do that both ways by using the GUI and by using the command line. Here we go. Going to go to local server. Bingo, bango, boppo. You notice that it has the host name that I wanted it to have. Let me go ahead and check via command line now. Bingo, bango, boppo. Now I have confirmed that this server's name is SB1. Now let's go ahead and check our IP information. I'm going to go down to the network interface and right click, open network and sharing, change adapter settings, right click on the network interface, properties, click on Internet Protocol version 4 and properties, and we see it has the IP address that I originally desired. And now let's go ahead and check via command line. I'm going to get rid of the text above. Just to be neat, I'm going to move all the way down to the root of C drive. And now I'm going to check my IP settings. Note the IP settings that you saw in the GUI match the IP settings in the CLI. Bingo, bango, papo, that is how you set the static IP address as well as the host name of the machine.